Magic, what I have found is if not 90%, it's at least 80% psychology.
First of all, I just want to welcome Adian Trine back to RavenzCraft Arts. Thanks for getting together with us and talking with us on this Chaos Magic series. Now, just to get a little more familiar with your area of expertise, you have a website and group called the Eclectic Order of Mysticism, which is based more around planetary magic, ceremonial magic, astrology, and things of that nature, correct?
Yes, and I don't want to fail to mention this, because when you say planetary magic, you think of certain figures in history that have grown that, and you know, and then when you think about ceremonial magic, well, of course we think of the Golden Dawn and things of that nature. I don't want to leave out one person that his book, his main book, his magnum opus, so to speak, doesn't have anything to do on the cover per se to magic, but Franz Barden's Initiation into Hermetics. And I go through this, I'm going to bring some of that to the audience here as well.
To me, chaos magic is sort of a moldable framework that we can fix or customize to fit to our specific practices or needs. So, in your words, what is chaos magic to you?
To me, chaos magic is exactly what you said it was. It's a melding of several different disciplines. Also, take into account, you know, the Goetia, things like that from King Solomon, and it's melding all into. And you know, some people might have a bad look on that. Well, we need to stick to tradition and things like that. But however, let me say this: if John Dee stuck to tradition, we wouldn't have the form of Enochian magic that we have today. If he stuck with tradition. And as you know, I have that site, the Eclectic Order of Mysticism, and the word eclectic means a combination or a melding of several different systems into one. So I'm down with that. I practice chaos magic myself. Chaos magic is integrating all of the traditionals into something that the individual can use.
See, I believe magic and nature are connected, and nature evolves as well as magic should evolve. So what do you think of the evolution of magic? Do you think magic evolves?
Well, absolutely. I wasn't seeing this going this route, but I believe John Dee was around the 1400s, 14 to 1600s, somewhere around in that area, and so his isn't as old per se as the Goetia, you know, and the Solomonic magic and things like that, the magic of Solomon. That actually the queen, you know, he was her astrologer. That form of what we call Enochian magic, you know, if you trace it back, it's back to John Dee. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't want to stay stuck, because as you said, nature evolves, magic, everything evolves, you know, and that's one thing, and I don't want to kick anybody in the shins, but one thing, because we get a lot of flack in our community from the religious community, okay? If you look at religions, especially in America, very stagnant religion. It's very stagnant. All they have is this one icon that they look to. But yeah, it's a lot of people, most of the people that are not in the gnosis, that are not practicing the arts, they treat things like that as a very stagnant thing, and it's not stagnant. It's ever evolving, just as we are. I have 3 templates I use for self-work. One is protection or binding work, and I'll show these to you, and I can't really see, but let's see here. This first one, there it is. That's for self-work, okay? And have your audience notice
the centerpiece with 2 rings around it. The center circle with 2 rings around it. And we'll start there. And before we start there, I want to say that this isn't definitive, because before I had this, I was making sigils in another aspect. You know, it didn't have the circles circumferencing the triangles, which I'll show you that in a second. So, as you said, it's always growing, you know. And so, I showed you that one with the self-work, okay? And then I have this one. This is for the influence, if I want to influence a situation, with the triangle pointing upward. And then if I want to bind something to me or away from me, then I have my triangle pointing downward. Now, let me explain that. With the self-work image, and I left these templates blank because as soon as I get done here, I've got some work I've got to do. So I didn't want to put my intent. So on the outer ring, what I do, and going back to, we're talking about chaos magic, we're talking about eclectic magic, you know, borrowing from different traditions. The outer ring holds 1 to 4 god names of the 72 god names that are indicative to what I'm wanting to perform. The circle inside of that circle is my intention, and I write that in the Enochian alphabet or the angelic alphabet. So there's 2 different systems right there at work. And then the very, very center, I take my cross layman, okay, and then I don't spell out, but I use this to draw the angelic sigil in the center of that, the one I'm trying to invoke. Same thing goes for the influence and the binding. However, with the influence and the binding, especially in the binding, I want to bind something or someone, you know, then that person will go in the center, their name in the Enochian alphabet, still keeping with the same god names in the outer ring, and then the intent in the inner ring, their name inside of that triangle, okay? And then some planetary influences on either side of that triangle. And then if I want to bring something to me, I do the same thing, but in reverse order of that, or with reverse intent in that. Now, the reason I do it that way
is because I'm very into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean, not Thoth, Hermes, Trismegistus. I mean, not the Emerald Tablets of Hermes, which are good, but I wanted to go further back, so I do a lot of work with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean, and he speaks of in those Emerald Tablets
that circles, basically, I want to really boil it down. Circles are good and angles are bad. So if I want to bind something or take something and attach it to me or keep it away from me, I put it within the angles. It talks about within the angles, and therefore I have the name or what I want coming to me with inside the angle, and if I have the name or what I want away from me, I have it inside those angles, right, with the circles around it. And so that's basically that. Of course, then I'll take that, I'll cut that out, and then I'll take, and I mentioned Franz Barden and Initiation of Hermetics, and then I'll take, you can see this, this little thing is condenser fluid that I've created. It's plant-based with some other things inside of it, and then I'll coat that whole sigil with this, let it dry, and then
after it's dried, if it's something that needs heavy-duty planetary influence, then I'll wait for the proper lunar mansion to arrive before I burn it.
Okay, so let's talk about the methods of activation or placement of sigils. Do you have any specific ways of activating or placing your sigils?
And see, and that's one of the reasons I left that all blank. I didn't want anybody thinking, oh boy, what's this, Yeah. So I left it blank, which basically it just boils down to these are just templates. If you give me one moment, I'll go grab a sigil that I've made. Now, usually I burn my sigils. Usually I burn them because that releases the energies that are inside of it, and then they travel up to the ether.
See, I have a hard time burning things like that sometimes because it's like it's artwork to me, and I'm like, man, I put so much intent in that. Now I gotta burn it.
But that's part of letting go. You talk like, especially in Franz Barden's Initiation Hermetics, and even within the Golden Dawn tradition. You have this thing, and I'm with you on that. I understand that completely. But burning and letting it go,
it has the aspect of you're letting you have your will and your intention within that sigil, and then when you burn it, you let it go, and like I say, it goes to the Akashic realm or the etheric realm, and then that's where, in my mind, the angels pick that up. Hey man, it's the same thing. How they used to burn offerings and stuff, and the smoke would rise up. So it's the same principles and things like that. But now this one I keep with me in my pocket, in my back pocket, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there is in the colors and everything, they mean something. And then on the other side, there's another side to it. And it has the Hebrew, and then it has the Hebrew in the outer yellow ring, and then within that lightly shaded red ring are the characters of the Enochian alphabet. And then this one is reversed with the red on the outer ring and yellow in the center. There, now you can see it. Yeah. So we have that. Okay. And so I keep that with me at all times.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on another subject, this whole digital spellcasting and kind of putting things on the internet. Do you think that's effective? Like, do you think this may be the next evolution of magic?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, and if I create a sigil and I tell you what it's for, what it's about, I think it loses a lot of its effect, because if you study out within the realm of magic, and you'll find that it's the old saying of to dare, to will, to do, and to be silent. And I think a lot of times that silence short circuit, when we don't remain silent, we short circuit a lot of those energies.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I tell you, if we're in a boxing match and I tell you, hey, I'm going to hit you in the left jaw, well, you're going to know.
Right.
And so it's not going to have as much effect because you're going to be anticipating it. And so for that reason, there's a reason when you get down to the nitty gritty and you start making sizzles and stuff, I would keep, and that's why I burn them as well. Keep it to yourself. And then, there's something about in the old traditions, you'll find in all of them, all the way through there's something about it being occult, which occult just means hidden or secret. So I think if we just put it all out there, then we're limiting ourselves. But now sharing the principles and sharing little templates and stuff like that, I don't think that's going to hinder anything or anybody. And so you have to communicate, and this is the age of Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So I don't think it's necessarily bad. I just think we need to be careful, just as they were back in the day, but we have more avenues of expression. So we just have to be careful with it and make sure that we're expressing, never let the right hand know what the left hand's doing type of thing. Express what you need to express to help educate people, but at the same time, let them also figure it out on their own.
Right.
Because that's where, when the eyes light up, man, and they figure it out, and they're like, oh man. Well, that's where the proof comes into the pudding, right there, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, you can affect such a large crowd of people now. So say if someone had bad intentions and they did something, it's like, wow, that can totally travel so much quicker than it did back then.
If you have somebody, and like you say, they're being a hindrance to you, or they're being a blessing to you, and either way you want to do that, and you will never meet them face to face to put something in their pocket, to whatever, then yeah, you can say, hey, like this right here, join me on Skype or join me on whatever, and just show them, say, hey, look what I made. Hey, check it out, and it enters into their subconscious. It takes a split second for it to enter into the subconscious.
Yeah.
It's quicker for something to enter into your subconscious than it is your conscious mind. Because your conscious mind is going to break it down, but your subconscious is going to store it and then internally break it down later in those quiet moments. So yeah, you can absolutely use it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm happy that you agree with how I think too, because I want to be real with everyone, and that's the way you got to be. You can't hide and be fake. You have to be real, because when you get exposed, everything shows. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if somebody come to me and tried to, and here's another thing, if somebody come to me and try to disavow all this and say, look, that don't work, I'll say, well, wait a minute, let's look, and you can always take them back to the old, even though we're practicing chaos magic, it's a new thing, but it's all has its roots in the old traditions. Like with me, I use the cross layman, I use Hebrew characters, I use the angelic alphabet or the Enochian alphabet. So I would, for somebody starting out, definitely stick with what you're comfortable with, what you know. You know what I'm saying? Like if you pick one or two things and just study them out, and then that way you won't be throwing a lot of karma around, so to speak. You know what I mean? You'll be able to know what you're actually putting out there, because what you put out there will eventually come back, or can. It has the potential to come back. We all used to believe in the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and Santa Claus at one time, correct or incorrect?
Yeah.
In this country, anyway.
Yeah.
We all used to believe in it, and then we found out that it was false. Well, that's the same thing as what they try to push down your throat with religion. But there is truth in it.
Right.
But you got to be able to extract it, and that's what I've done. I've extracted a portion of this great truth here,
exactly.
Without having to believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and this one and that one.
All right, I just want to thank Adian Trine once again for taking the time to talk with us and tell us a little bit about how he uses chaos magic in his practice. We appreciate the sharing of knowledge and education, and we hope to have you back once again.
Likewise, man. Namaste.
You can check out Adian Trine on Facebook at the Eclectic Order of Mysticism. Also, he has a website called @astrology.com. Special thanks to all the viewers and supporters out there. There is yet another episode to come in the Chaos Magic series. We will have another special guest appearance. I am not going to reveal who it is quite yet, but I'm sure you all will be excited to see who it is. So keep on watching, subscribe, share, and like I always say, stay on the positive path.